Good afternoon to one and all present here. Ma'am, shall we start, ma'am?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. Um, it's my honor to welcome our resource person, Dr. G. Lavanya, Professor and Head, Department of Psychology, University of Madras.
Thank you.
Ma'am, thank you very much for immediately accepting and for sparing your valuable time in your
Thank you,
knowledge
ma'am.
sharing to our younger generation. It's really a topic. There's need of the topic, ma'am. Developing emotional intelligence, and just a few words on our resource person. She has an experience of over 23 plus years with a specialization on guidance and counseling. She has numerous awards. Just to name very few, she has been awarded UGC JRF in 1999 and UGC URF from 1996. And she is a university first rank holder in our PG degree. Ma'am, congratulations for that.
Thank you, ma'am.
And she has numerous best paper presentation awards in her own domain. And she has published 6+ books, 46 journals, international journal publications, and she has organized over 58 conferences and seminars, and she has numerous projects on her credit too. Ma'am, it's really immense pleasure in welcoming you, ma'am, and thank you so much for accepting, and the session is yours now, ma'am.
Thank you, Dr. Lavanya, ma'am, for first of all giving me that opportunity to consider that psychology can be one of the important aspects that today it's not just for younger generation but for all of us. We need to refresh our thoughts. And thank you, ma'am, for giving me the opportunity. I also do thank our registrar, Professor Elumale of the university, for providing us this platform that as faculty and students we all can stand on the same platform to interact or to at least share our information to each other. So with that note, I once again would like to greet all the members present in the group for today, and we're just going to have a short session today. Ma'am, I understand most of our participants would be students, right, ma'am? Yeah. And dear students, what I'm going to present today is something not theoretical, something where you need not be wondering of very big techniques or that you need to be a psychologist for this. I have chosen some very common practical day-to-day techniques or methods that each of us, you and I, have to consciously practice. If we could practice it over a period of time, then it's high chances that developing emotional intelligence will become a natural process within us. The one good thing about emotional intelligence is it is not hereditary. It is an acquired skill. It's something we learn. It's a social skill, something we learn. So even if we have a very low quotient as of now, there is always a big opportunity for us that if we make a conscious effort, we could definitely improvise our emotional intelligence. And this session, you may please feel free to stop and interact with me. Completing all my slides is not really essential because I'll be sharing all my slides to Dr. Lavanya ma'am there, where she could always share it back to whoever desires to see it. But having an interactive session, asking me questions where you think you want to ask would be very helpful for both you and me and for the group in large to understand where we are aware about our own emotional quotient and how we are able to display it with others. With that short note, I would like to begin my presentation. Just give me a minute, ma'am. I'll just come back. Ma'am, could you just give me a minute, ma'am? I think the sharing is being a little problem. I'll just get my student's assistant for that, ma'am.
No issues, ma'am. Yes.
Yeah, sure. Ma'am, could you please let us know whether the screen is visible to the...
Yeah, the screen is visible. It is in slide.
It's in a slideshow. I need to...
No, yeah, you need to go for slideshow.
Slideshow. I have to go for slideshow. Ma'am, is that fine now, ma'am?
Yeah, it is fine now.
Yes, ma'am. Thank
Yeah,
you.
we just check moving here and the next slide, ma'am. That also is.
Yes, ma'am. Is it moving, ma'am?
Yeah, it's moving.
Right, ma'am. Thank you. Right. Yes, students, that's going to be the topic for us today. We're going to basically talk about how can we develop our emotional intelligence. Let me just please begin with the fact that all of us do have emotional intelligence. It's not something that you have to do it as a course. It's not something that you have to learn now. What exactly we need to do now is to be aware of to what extent we do have our emotional intelligence, and having said that, are we in the position to display what we have with others? Just the slide for your awareness. You must be aware of this. You would have seen that in earlier YouTube videos or so. Emotional intelligence basically have multiple components, but the broad components would be one would be the self-knowledge. What does that self-knowledge mean? Self-knowledge means, do you know who you are? Meaning to say, not your name, not where you come from, or it's not a philosophical question. In the self-knowledge, what we refer to is, am I aware and have I accepted the fact that these are my strengths and these could act as my limitations also? That is self-knowledge. Self-knowledge also includes, do I know what my goal and purpose in my future life would want to be as? That is also something that you need to know. Am I working towards a infinite goalless end? Or do I just have short-term goals? Or do I have long-term goals only with no short-term goals also? Or do I have a meaning and purpose in my existence? I mean, do you think I want to be recognized only in this way and not in any other way? All answers to these questions is your self-knowledge. Coming next would be managing your emotions. Now, what does managing your emotions mean? Let me make a statement here to you all that emotions as it comes, do not control it. Do not stop it, but manage it. What do you mean by saying manage it? Two things happen while you're managing. One is acknowledging that I'm experiencing that emotion, be it positive like love, happiness, joy, all of these feelings, or a negative emotion like anger, sadness, jealousy, hatred, etc. Whatever be positive or negative, self-acknowledging that I am experiencing this particular emotion currently, point number one. And point number two is, given the situation, is this appropriate that I should be able to present this emotion? Given the social circumstances, given the conditions in which I am currently now operating, can I show the love in the same way that I am feeling? Can I show the anger the same way I'm feeling in the situation and to the person? That is more of a practical or an intelligent behavior. This is what we mean by managing emotions. We do not control emotions, we do not negate emotions, we do not deny the emotions also. But we experience, we acknowledge it to the self, but the way you express it to the others is determined by the current situation in which you are placed. The third component would be understanding others. As much as we are trying to understand the situation in which you are being placed, while you're expressing your emotions, you also need to understand who is the receiver on the other side, to whom your emotions are going to be depicted on. Is that person in that emotional state to receive your emotion in its purest form? Or is that person in that state who's already in a heightened emotion state where even the mildest of the emotion or the talk that you express will not be received in the positive condition? In other words, what state of mind they are, and are they in the position to receive it? That would be understanding others. If you can understand what your purpose for the situation is, if you can have your ability to navigate your emotions to suit the situation. Third, if you're able to understand how the other person is going to receive your emotions, automatically it will work for managing your relationships with them also. This will help us to build in assertiveness, that is, I know what I want, I'm still able to express what I want. Point one. Second, point two, I'm truly honest, I'm not manipulating myself, I'm not changing myself just to please others or to suit situations or to go by the common trend. Third, because I'm making an attempt to understand how the other person is going to receive me, I'm showing empathy. I'm also showing a practical intelligence of, if I do certain things now, what will be the consequences of it on the receiving side and its impact back on me. And in the long run process, as well as for the current moment, your relationship would be better managed. Where there is a strain, at least you can make it as a working managed relationship. Where a misunderstanding is there, you need not further add to it, or you may clear it also. Where there is a good relationship, this process will help you to strengthen your relationship. In the crux of it, the following slides are just going to tell how we are going to do this through. But this slide alone is a crux of the whole presentation that I wish to tell you. If you could be in this framework of understanding self, navigating your emotions to the situation, understanding the receiving person's conditions, and that facilitating the building of a relationship, you are showing an act of emotional intelligence. You are already embarked on your journey in strengthening the already emotional intelligence skills within you. And this is all in very simple terms what emotional intelligence is. May I just hear from any one or two students? Would anybody wish to say anything at this point or clarify anything? I would really be happy if any one or two speak to me back, because I can't even see you on the video here. I'm only able to see my own slides here. May I hear from you, please? Hello?
Ma'am,
Students?
the students are just like as they are in the class. They'll be listening and only at the end, maybe they'll ask some questions.
Nobody has anything to interact or even add on to whatever I have said? I would really appreciate you all can be bilingual. This is a topic, unless you interact, I'll be able to kind of guide you all through over this session in a much related way. Otherwise, it will end up being another lecture class for you all. And I'm sure I don't think any of our students would prefer that. So, in the next few slides, I would really look forward if any one or two students at least please respond back. That will really facilitate. So, exactly what is emotional intelligence? Please note this figure. Emotions is both a cognitive factor as well as the affect factor on it. When we exhibit an emotion, we exhibit it by our feelings as well as by our thought. And an emotional intelligent person has the right balance, or I won't even say the right balance, I would say the connect between the logical reasoning in the situation. That is what we will be referring by understanding others as well as the situation, plus also acknowledging the fact that you are in an emotional state. You are going through a certain emotion that is referring to your managing your own emotions. And when you can connect both the factors together, if you can connect your logical reasoning as well as your very personalized feelings about the situation, then obviously you are aware of the need for that emotion to be exhibited, need in way in which that emotion should be exhibited. That is self-awareness also. So emotional intelligence is basically the connect between our logical reasoning as well as our fluctuations of our affect, our feelings, and balancing act of that is what emotional intelligence is all about. So why is exactly this emotional intelligence very, very important? Because you all are familiar with the fact that IQ will definitely help you to get a seat in your dream college or your institute, a job, or anywhere else you will be considered to be a very brilliant person. But whether it's your life, whether it is a workplace, whether it's a relationship that you hold in a personal life or in a workplace, all depends on your ability to sustain. I can get into Madras University, I can get into IIT, I can get into top premium institutions. But will I be able to sustain myself in that place 1 year, 2 years, 3 years, 10 years, 15 years, 25 years plus? Is a big question. Because my IQ, in terms of my academic marks, my degrees, my publications, can help me to get into positions. But will people accept me there? Will I get accepted and will I accept them others? Can my day to day life move smoothly with them? For that, your EQ, emotional quotient, is most important. The same thing happens in a marital life. The same thing happens in a romantic relationship. The same thing happens in a friendly relationship with your classmates, your friends. The same thing will happen with your roommates as well as your neighboring people at home. So, this EQ is a fact of mental condition that helps you to sustain meaningfully in wherever you are. Having said this, I would also want to tell you that people who are high on an EQ score, emotional quotient, doesn't mean that they don't have stress. They will have stress. Doesn't mean that they are extraordinary people who know how to solve all difficulties in life. No, they may not know how to solve all difficulties in life. They may be inviting more and more stress for themselves. But what they have is they have the skill, they have the knowledge, they have the knack or the ability to handle that stress. Life becomes problematic or stressful only when you feel you do not know how to handle it. Only if you feel you do not know how to resolve it. Otherwise, problem by itself is not a problem for anybody of us. Let problems come to us, let stress come to us. But if we know it doesn't matter, let that come. I know how I can handle all these conditions. That gives us the strength for our mental well-being. That gives us our strength to be sustaining in that relationship, be it a close relationship, work or a working relationship. And this is what we refer as an emotionally intelligent behavior. Okay, so as I just began my introductory remark there, like IQ, which is both nurtured and nature, that is hereditary, has to be there for you to have a definite level of IQ, plus your grooming, your upbringing, your schooling, all that matters to add to your IQ. EQ is not that way. Emotional intelligence is something we learn through our process of socialization. We learn through the process of moving with other people in our environment. With all the difficulties and problems that we face in life, we understand which is a better way to conduct ourselves with different type of people in different types of situations, and that exactly is an emotional intelligence. Therefore, it's something you can learn, it's something you can unlearn if something is not learned properly, and this is something we can constantly be enhancing as the demand goes for us. So, with that note, let me move on to the first aspect of emotional intelligence. I want all of us, even if you are not still responding back to me, I want all of you all to go into the mood of reflecting on those times where identify any one emotion and identify emotional condition and identify what emotion you had gone through. Maybe just few minutes before now, or just early today morning when you had just got up. What was your state of mind? Are you able to recognize what emotion you are experiencing? காலையில் எழுந்தப்பயே டல்லா இருக்கு. Does that mean that you don't have energy? Does that mean that you're feeling very sad? Or is it like you're feeling very irritable, but you've given a word called sad to that meaning? You're irritable because you're anticipating to meet somebody that you don't want to, you wish to meet, or something that you wanted was not going that in that way, and that has caused the irritability last night, and it's just continuing today also. And the whole day seems to be so gloomy when you got up in the morning. But instead of acknowledging the fact that it is irritability, mostly when we get up feeling dull, we feel like, தெரியல எனக்கு என்னவோ டல்லா இருக்கு, I'm feeling very sad, I'm feeling very down, I'm feeling very blue. These are the words we generally tend to use also. So the first step for us to acknowledge or self knowledge would be, first observe your body. Your body speaks to you. The body speaks to you to tell you the condition in which your mind is, and name that condition in the right way. That would be the first step of emotional intelligence. One way to say how to name which is right is to pay attention once again to your behavior now. If your body feels very heavy and dull and light, you're understanding you're in a different state of condition, emotional condition. But if you observe your behavior, somebody wishes you in the morning, good morning, you find it so difficult to smile at the person. Somebody tells you something, amma idu eduthu vechitena, amma vechittu irpa ethana vaati solano, you give a very sharp reply of that sort, and then you think back and say, they asked a very normal question which I could have normally answered yes or no. Why did I have to react that way? So these are indicators for you. Now you observe your own behavior. Observe the change in your behavior, the trend in your behavior, or for that moment, why am I behaving that way? All this should be a conscious effort on your side. When you can observe how your body is responding, and if you are conscious about your behavioral responses, it becomes easier for us to say, I'm not sad, it's just that I'm very irritable. யார் எது கேள்வி கேட்டா கூட எனக்கு கோபம் வருது. You will be exactly able to tell what your right emotion is. This is one way for us to identify and not get confused between overlapping emotions. And this is essential for emotional intelligence. Anybody has anything to say right now, or may I proceed? I'll be happy if anybody could ask me anything or tell anything. If you want me to proceed also, any one of the students can still say that. Ma'am, you can proceed. I'll proceed. Please let me hear you. I don't get to see you also, so at least let me hear your voice at least. Right? One of the emotional intelligence factor is to maintain personal contacts. Personal contacts is not virtual contacts. We are not in a COVID condition, so we don't need to maintain so much of technological distance also. So I would really appreciate if I could hear your voice, because the chat is not on display for me here. So I'll be happy even if you could tell me, ma'am, we have no questions, you can proceed. I'll be happy to hear your voice also. But of now, I am proceeding. There is one more aspect you need to know when you're identifying emotions or understanding yourself better. There is this aspect called opinion bulb. Today's generation or your human generation look to meet people or keep in touch with people with like-mindedness waves. We generally say among friends also, no, we are all of the same wavelength. We get along with each other. சொல்லாதே அவங்க மனசுல என்ன போகுது எங்களுக்கு புரிஞ்சிடும், அவ்வளவு க்ளோஸ் எங்க ஃப்ரெண்ட்ஷிப். Now this is the type of trend that we are maintaining in a relationship, and that itself sometimes can become a hurdle if we fall into trap of what we call as this opinion bulb. Like I have an opinion of some issue, like I have an opinion, say like students do not like very long sessions. It's just an opinion as a teacher I have. Okay, now when I have this and if I keep on functioning with that opinion, I may be totally wrong. I may be totally misinterpreted by a student also by giving very brief information, and the student may perceive that this teacher doesn't know anything, that's why she gives a very short classes. Or the student may misperceive that, saying that she's just trying to fill in time and that's why she's taking time there. It is always better to break this opinion bulb. Even if you think your opinion is right in some circumstances, always cross check with the other person. That is the another phase of empathizing, understanding the others. You need to understand the basic rules of communication. I speak something and I don't care whether others have understood me right or wrong is not the right attitude. When I speak something, it's my responsibility that I speak in a manner that others understand the way I intended to convey it to them. So it becomes my responsibility to always cross-check, is this how you've understood me? Did you get me right through what I have said? This helps to clarify major misunderstandings between a student and teacher, between two friends, between husband and wife, between intimate partners, or between any relationship for that matter. This also breaks the opinion bulb, saying, அது உன்னோட opinion, என்னோட opinion அப்படி இல்லை. This is what we think about. So when they start such a conversation of that sort, you will gain more knowledge about your own self, that what others are perceiving you. You think you're the best, you think you're great, you think you're right in saying what you're doing, you're right in doing what you're doing, but others may perceive you differently. For that aspects, you need to understand, if you have to maintain and sustain in good relationship, what others are perceiving you also. And for that reason, it's good to break this opinion bulb. This is something that we have spoken already. Acknowledge the emotion that you're experiencing. That's what I mean by take responsibility for your feelings. Don't deny it. Don't negate it. As much as we have reasons why to feel sad, As much as we have reasons to remember what all negative things that has happened in our life, what people have hurted us, research does say that our human wiring is so conditioned that we tend to remember negative aspects much more than positive aspects. And therefore, this slide has come up. It becomes important that we celebrate positivity in our life. Small positivity. It's not celebrating Friendship Day or Mother's Day or a Teacher's Day or Children's Day or etc. That's not what I mean by celebration. A simple acknowledgement of telling your brain, look, I'm going through this feeling of feel good, love, happiness, the contentment, the satisfaction, and I am experiencing it. Just tell that to your own brain. Research also, neuropsychological research has also proved that the more instructions you give, so is our neurons that is getting developed in our brain, and it gets activated when it sees such similar conditions or verbal clues or visual clues, and it responds accordingly to it. So therefore, it becomes important that you tell your mind, your brain, that actually takes control of all our actions and emotions, that I am feeling good, I am feeling happy. That is celebrations. Celebration doesn't mean party, celebration doesn't mean an event. It is acknowledging to your own self that you can experience and you are experiencing right in this moment something good, something positive, and you're letting your brain, which is your, so to say, your master computer, for your or beyond master computer, that actually determines all your actions and the consequences of it. Okay. As much as I said, acknowledge your positivity, acknowledge also your negativity. You're smiling at somebody, you're telling somebody, Madam, your lecture is brilliant, ma'am. But heart of heart, you're really feeling the negativity. I'm sure I could have done a better work than this. I'm sure she's copied everything from me and she's acknowledging, she's claiming as if it is hers. I am a close friend, but then I realized that I'm exactly not really happy being in a company. But if I leave her, then I may not get anybody else there. Also, do not ignore the negative sense of feeling that you're experiencing. The more that you tend to ignore, you feel you are being used. You will start feeling your emotions is of no consequences to others, least to you itself. When you don't acknowledge your own emotions, take it from me, others will not even accept or acknowledge that you're going through that emotion. So the assertiveness for you begins not with others, but first with your own self there. So acknowledge and understand both the experience of both positivity and negativity, not generally, but even from moment to moment. When you're consciously doing all this over a period of time, you will not exercise this as a special effort. It will become your second nature for you to become part of your personality itself. And that is how personality gets enhanced for any one of us. So, all this will be your concepts that come under self awareness, knowing both your strengths and weaknesses. Weaknesses both from your perspective and how others perceive you also. We are social animals, so to say. We live in a society, we live in a community, we live in a friends group, be it in person or a virtual friends group. But others' acceptance and opinion does have an impact and influence on our own personality and behavior. Therefore, for that reason, we have to be realistic in understanding both our strengths and weaknesses, both from our self perspective, because we alone know what we are, but also understand how others are perceiving you. And that gives you a better clarity as to how you should be conducting yourself in a social situations. And then do learn to look at yourself more objectively, not to try to defend yourself. The more you tend to defend yourself, saying, I am this way because It's my right to be that way. I'm this way because that's how I've been brought up. I'm this way because it pleases me to be that way. Now, all these are not an objective view of your own self. Uh, yes, would anybody like to say anything?
You are video call. Video call.
Hello? Uh, could you please come to your audio if you want to ask or say something to me?
No, ma'am, by mistake, I think yes.
Okay, yeah, fine, no problem. Yeah. So you need to be objective. By being objective, all you need to do is, at least with yourself, be honest, be truthful. Your objectivity is achieved there itself. Be honest to acknowledge, to accept what you are, who you are, the way you are, without any defense. Don't bring family as a defense. Don't bring God or fate or destiny as a defense. Don't bring teachers or friends as a defense, saying, because they are that way, I have become this way. You are this way because it's your choice to be that way, not because you're helpless to be that way. If you could acknowledge that acceptance, then you're being objective in your approach towards your own self. Some of us have this ability to maintain a diary. Yes, you can maintain a diary. You can note down your emotions. You can note down your interactions with others. Some score it out. Some write it and share it with others for further conversations and further interactions. Some share it only with the counselor. Some keeps it very personal. I mean, there's nothing required to share it with others. But anytime when you write a diary, sometimes our thoughts can go faster than what we can accept verbally or physically. Therefore, when you write it down, you are able to keep track of all the emotions that you are expressing. And when you go back to your diary and read through what you have gone through, when you have gone through, and what conditions you have gone through, it also gives you a better insight. Exactly என்ன trigger பண்ணது என்ன, exactly what makes me bring the smile on my face, exactly in what condition that I am the way I am today. All these details come back to your memory with much greater clarity than by merely remembering and assuming in the situation and I இருந்திருப்பேன். So in that way, maintaining a diary or some form of documentation, personalized, definitely not required to be shared with others, is very helpful also in remembering your own life events. And one more important factor, learn to give your own self a break. Break is not something which a teacher has to give, your parent has to give, your institution has to give. Whenever you know you have to do long hours of work, studying for a sessional test, studying for a forthcoming end semester examination, teachers haven't finished their portions. Yes, they're going to go at a stretch now to have long hours of theoretical or practical classes there, where you have to do long hours of work. You learn to give yourself breaks. Breaks doesn't mean that you have to physically get up from there. A few seconds or few minutes of reflecting on other aspects other than the monotony of the work that you are doing itself is found to have a great relieving impact on the mental burden of the work task itself. Yes, if you are able to physically also take a break, yoga, reading a book, listening to music, chatting, talking to people, meditation, all of these are also found to be very helpful, and these are also the factors which help you for your mental health balance also. When I say take it easy, don't make things in such a condition that others should make things easy for you. People will not make things easy for you. You must learn to make things easy for you. Please remember that aspect. Nobody can help you to come out of your problem. You alone have to work to come out of your problem. If you decide you need to have a mental relaxation or a physical relaxation, you must make that choice there. not expecting that the situation should be conducive enough. When a situation doesn't permit for a physical relaxation, learn to take a mental relaxation, and that nobody can occupy your space in that. Nobody's permission is required to take mental breaks for that. You and you alone have to take control. How long break you want, to what extent you want to do things in that break phase, and when you want to get back to your routine work. But remember, you have to get back to the routine work, and you're taking the break only for your self maintenance, self relaxation, or for your better well being. These are things that we have already spoken, so I'm just moving down. This is one more factor. Ma'am, I've spoken with my friends, ma'am. அவங்க ஒன்று சொல்றாங்க, என் மனசுக்கு ஒன்று தோணுது. So I'm not sure what will be my right decision to take now. It's not just research, but great thinkers and life coaches have acknowledged this fact, your intuition. What is this intuition? This is not this unseen aspect. That intuition is the combination of your logical mind and your subjective feeling of what is right and wrong in the situation. In other words, it's your emotional intelligence. That is your intuition. My consciousness, my gut feeling, all of these are synonymous of the same condition here. When logically your mind says this is right, this is not right, and subjectively also feel in the situation this is not right, in the situation it correct da, when you can sense that type of feeling, most of the time the decision that we take through intuition or in such conditions turn out to be adaptable to the given. Right or wrong is a different issue, but at least adaptable or beneficial for the person who takes that decision. So also learn to listen to your intuitive feelings, your gut feelings, and work along with that. That helps you to reduce suggestibility or getting way-sided by somebody giving a suggestion saying, and the behave panne. You will not get too much influence by the way others can guide you or misguide you. Even if they don't misguide you, even if they guide you, you need not fall completely a model to what they want you to do, but you can still do what you want to do if you're able to follow your own intuitive feelings. Right? So yes, if you have a schedule for your mental health or your physical health, learn to stick to it. The more you fluctuate, it won't become a practice for you. What is not practice will not become a habit. What doesn't become a habit can't become part of your personality. So today, if you want to enhance your personality to develop more strength of your emotional intelligence, which all of y'all do have, then prepare some strategy or a technique or a methodology, practice it, test it, and if it works out for you, maintain it. And then it becomes a habit for you for your personality change. These are things that you are quite familiar with. You need to be realistic when you set your own goals, because the realistic goals will be a better motivator than less realistic goals. I'll go fast on these slides now. You're familiar that positive thinking does impact the way our personality, we project ourselves to others also. If you feel negative within you and you still tend to smile at people, still show a gesture like an open hand, it will not work out, because people can very intuitively sense that things are not fine between us. So what you feel inside is what your body will also show it outside. So it becomes important that we see positivity even in a negative situation. This is most important also. It's not bad, it's not less fashionable. If you want help, seek help. There's a biblical quotation that tells, ask for it and it shall be given. So if you don't tell, I need this help, don't assume whether it is your mother, father, teacher, close partner, whomever ever that person is, will understand you. All the time, people cannot be able to understand you. Take professional help when it's an absolute requirement, but before that itself, the self-help, to friends help, to that of your teachers, your parents, your colleagues, or your other social support members in your family to help you, you have to ask and then it shall come. And this is one important characteristic of an emotional intelligence. Research has also shown that the more when we genuinely, not for sake of asking, when we genuinely ask somebody to help us and they in turn help us, that is a reason for building bonding relationship. They tend to feel close towards you, and the fact that they helped you also makes you feel that you need to reciprocate back to help them, and therefore this bonding starts developing. Today, when we have to maintain good relationship or at least working relationships, this mutual helping behavior becomes essential also. So that is also a part of a skill in emotional intelligence in terms of understanding others. This is empathy aspect, ability to feel the way others could perceive. Yes, let me move on to faster on this. Right. This is accepting what others tell you. Let me go on to more important slides for you all. So that I may have some time at least to interact at the last. You all can always go through all this. I will share through email to Dr. Lavanya ma'am these slides. Yeah, this is one important fact I want to speak about. Today's generation, I heard, the younger generation especially, I hear that we have trust issues. We can't trust people. When you can't trust, then forget, you can't maintain relationships. If you can't start relationships, you can't sustain in a relationship also. But for that, always understand the first step should come from you. You should learn to trust others, and then alone people can show back trust on you. If you show trust on somebody and they betray you, it's a lesson well learned for you. It's self-awareness. Either the way you have approached was not right, or the way you approached was misunderstood by the other person, or your opinion of yourself is totally different, but others are viewing you differently. All these are important lessons of somebody betraying your trust. And that is a strong point for you to develop your self-awareness also. But for any relationship, first learn to trust, and you will get that reciprocated back from others. Coming to the last few slides, these are things that anybody who wants to show their emotional intelligence or strengthen their emotional intelligence must make an attempt to avoid. Drama and complaining. ஒரு சின்ன இஷ்யூவை ஒரு மெகா சீரியல் போல, தட் இஸ் லைக் அ கிரிக்கெட் கமெண்ட்ரி போல, இவங்க இப்படி வந்தாங்க, இப்படி நின்று பேசினாங்க, இந்த டோன்ல பேசிட்டாங்க, அப்படி பார்வை கொடுத்தாங்க. All these finer details, especially in a negative situation, can add fuel to your already negative emotion, or add fuel to a burning state of anger with somebody else. This should be avoided. When there is a concern, when there is an issue, as a matter of fact, just state it. Don't put too much of that emotionalness into that condition. If you do that, either you or the other side person will start perceiving that you are either complaining, or they may get aggravated or provoked, which in turn will provoke you also. All this will only lessen your social skills in the given situations. So learn to facilitate your own emotions by managing it, navigating it well by avoiding these cognitive factors like creating a drama or a complaint, constantly dwelling in the past. எப்பயோ பண்ண தவறு எப்பயோ பண்ண மிஸ்டேக்ஸ் இந்த வாட்டி நீ திருப்பி ப்ளே பண்ண then what do I do? Bringing back the old story into the current story or the future will never ever help in any personal relationships. So what has happened in the past has happened. Learn your lessons, be cautious, be well prepared for a future. But if you dwell in the past, your mental health is gone. If you bring the past to the present, your maintenance of your relationship with the current person will get affected, will not sustain either. Right? And these are also some of the other cognitive distortions that you need to avoid, such as black and white thinking, either good or bad, right or wrong. I should do, I should not do. That is the extremes. That is black and white thinking. Catastrophing is வாழ்க்கையே முடிஞ்சிடுச்சு இவங்க இப்படி சொல்லிட்டாங்க இப்படி பண்ணிட்டாங்க இதுக்கு மேல எனக்கு I don't have my honor, I'm not loved by anybody. That is making that complete dead end type of statements for them. The should do must do. Now idu pannada I will prove my friendship. I must do this. I should do this if I'm her friend. If I have to show my love to the person, I must do this. Otherwise, they will not think I love the person. All these are the ones that will reduce your ability to manage your emotions as well as to understand others, and in long term lead to what we call as toxicity in relationships. Even in a close friendship, in classes also, or between a child and a parent or a student and a teacher, toxicity in a relationship comes only when we fall prey or get trapped to all these cognitive distortions. Labeling, already assuming that so and so is this type of person, overgeneralizing what happened in one condition, you apply it to other conditions, personalizing it, enna paathuda idu sollitaanga avanga when they could have made a very general statement. All these are the things that you really need to avoid. And with that note, these are some of the facts that as red flags I want you all to keep in mind, where you're aware that your own peace of mind, your mental health, your emotional intelligence, or in other words, you are going down on your emotional deterioration, is when you constantly distrust others, you start feeling inferior within you, therefore you tend to dominate others through anger. When you constantly experience phases of non-clinical depression, when you want to be left all alone by yourself and not still do something of great utility, you're socially withdrawing yourself, or you want to constantly have somebody besides you. Restroom ku pona kuda variya taniya po enakku pidikala. I mean, that's a common thing that people can do, but then over a period of time, that's not either ways a healthy behavior when you constantly depend on others there. And a long lasting of uncompleted anger, irritability, or hostility over a situation or a person in mind. All these will not help you to develop your emotional intelligence. So finally, how do we sum up to develop your intelligences? Class, students, what I want to reflect upon is, keep these 12 things in mind. Reflect on your own emotions. Try to communicate to people. Communicating is not just chatting, not just video calls, but try to do it in person. Talk something, otherwise there will become a day as we all forgot how to write because we are always doing online presentations to a greater part. We'll also forget how to speak afterwards. So speak to people, ask others for their perspectives. When you ask, that doesn't mean you have to change or they are right and you're wrong. Ask only to understand. to know, not necessarily required to change. But when somebody criticizes, don't personalize, but understand what they're trying to ask you to change, and if that is good for you, then change. And always practice whatever strategy that worked for you, so that practice, as I said, will sow the seeds for you to become your second nature, and that becomes a habit, and the habit becomes your changed personality, a personality that is more enriched with emotional intelligence. So I'm concluding my presentation with this last slide. It's important to understand that emotional intelligence is not the opposite of intelligence, that is your IQ, but it is a triumph of the heart over the head, and it is the unique interaction of the both. It is a joint effort of the logical mind as well as the emotional mind. Given the situation, you respond, you react, you proactively you conduct yourself. That is a fact of emotional intelligence. So with that very few sharings with you, let me conclude by saying emotional intelligence is not a very big aspect, but a very simple aspect that all of us have, all of us are being doing. But if you could consciously do it and practice it, you will see the benefits of it much more stronger in your life. So with that, I'm stopping right now. It's 2:57 on my system here. As ma'am suggested, I'll be really happy if at least one or two of you. I'm not asking for a feedback. I just want you all to interact. It can be questioning or it can be sharing also.
Yeah, guys, anything to supplement or even questions or anything you feel, yes, ma'am, this way will it be better or anything like that?
இல்லைன்னா இது கூட சொல்லலை மேம், நீங்க சொல்லதெல்லாம் நல்லாதான் இருக்கு மேம், நானும் ட்ரை பண்ணிட்டேன், எது ஒர்க் அவுட் ஆகல, பிபிடிக்கு மட்டும் நல்லா இருக்கு மேம், இப்படி சொன்னா கூட பரவாயில்ல, எனக்கு ஐ won't mind on that.
Ma'am, I have a question, ma'am.
Yeah,
like,
yes ma'am.
Yeah, say sometimes we used to feel very low, right? இப்போ நான் என்ன பண்ணாலும் எதுவும் நடக்க மாட்டேங்குது, நான் எதை சொன்னாலும் நடக்கல, எதுனாலும் நடக்கல, நான் 60 மார்க் வாங்கணும்னு நினைக்கிறேன், ஆனா 80 தான் வாங்க, சாரி 80 வாங்கணும்னு நினைக்கிறேன், 60 தான் வாங்குறேன். So like that, we for no reason also we used to feel sometimes very low. How to overcome that, ma'am?
Ma'am, it is a common condition that whether it is a student that we don't get the marks that we desire, or we're trying to do a project and nobody recognizes us and acknowledges us, or it's in a mother ka gaya, illa husband wife ka gaya, illa between romantic partners or between close friends in class, we're trying to do something to make another person happy, but they don't acknowledge it back to us. This is the exact condition where you have to show your emotional quotient there. Meaning to say, reflect back. அவங்க acknowledge பண்ணலன்னா எனக்கு என்ன நடக்குது? Am I becoming depressed? Why am I becoming depressed? ஓஹோ, அவங்க வந்து என்னை பார்த்து நீ நல்லா பண்ணிருக்கிறேன்னு சொன்னதான் அவங்களோட ஃப்ரெண்டா, இல்லைன்னா என் ஃப்ரெண்ட் இல்லையா? ஆன்சர் டு தட் கொஸ்டின். எனக்கு வந்து 80 மார்க்ஸ் வாங்கணும், எனக்கு 60 மார்க்ஸ் தான் வருது. ஸோ டீச்சரோட எக்ஸ்பெக்டேஷன் ஸ்டைல்ஸ் வேற இருக்கா? என்னோட ஆன்சர்ஸ் எல்லாம் இருக்கு, பட் ஷீ ஹாஸ் அ டிஃப்ரெண்ட் வே ஆஃப் வாண்டிங் த ஆன்சர்ஸ் டு பி பிரசன்டட். That doesn't mean that I don't have the knowledge. It's just that the teacher is expecting something out of it, which I'm still not giving that way to her. So, anga mistake nadakkuda. Or am I writing everything but in a very general form when there are no technical details given in the answer paper? Therefore, the teacher doesn't feel like giving complete marks to higher marks to that answer. You have to reflect to find out. That is the cognitive brain doing it. But the emotional brain has to feel, இவங்க acknowledge பண்ணலன்னா, இவங்க என்னை பார்த்து சிரிக்கலைன்னா, அந்த மூமெண்ட்டுக்கு what is happening within me? Is that feeling that is happening within me the determining factor of my relation with the person? If it's not the determining factor, feel it, tell the person and forget it. If it is a determining factor, then you have to work out with that person so that it doesn't get constantly repeated and you feel constantly down all the time or feel victimized at that in that relationship.
So now, how can I differentiate between tiredness and sadness, ma'am?
Tiredness is when you don't have energy in your body, ma'am, physically, but your brain is really bubbling up, எழுந்து போய் இது பண்ணணும் இது பார்க்கணும் என்ன நடந்தா கூட ஐ ஹாவ் டு டாக் டு திஸ் பர்சன் எப்பெல்லாம் டயர்ட் ஆனா கூட ஒரு வாட்டி அவங்க கிட்ட ஒரு 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 ஹை சொல்லணும் ஒரு பாய் சொல்லணும் ஒரு சாட் பண்ணணும் that is that mental energy, that is that kind of willpower there. So that is the differentiation, that you're looking forward. இல்ல நான் இவங்க கிட்ட பேசிட்டு போனா அவங்க மேல கோவமா இருக்காங்க திட்ட போறாங்க ஆனா கூட நான் இவங்க கிட்ட பேசணும், though I know negative consequences will come, you still want to have the talk with that person, or you just feel good by just seeing that person, talking with the person, interacting with the person. That would be your mental energy. That's not mental fatigue. Physically, you may be tired because of a long day's work or a long day's walk or whatever it is. But the mental energy generally supersedes the physical energy unless you're physically incapacitated. One student at least. I see so many names. There are some names only have come in here. Charumati, Haripriya. Chat le put pair edukkanum.
One question, ma'am.
Yes, please.
Are there any specific exercises or practices that can help the people to develop their emotional intelligence?
Ma'am, all what I have presented are exercises and strategies you need to practice. Whether it is reflecting on self, I'm not taught any psychological skills like stop thought technique or visual imagery. All this also facilitates your overcoming negative thinking over positive thinking. But those techniques, I definitely would have to have an interaction for it. Merely a theory of it is even available on the Google. You don't really have to have a faculty or a person to speak about this. But what I've shared is what we can practice daily. Reflecting on self, nobody can do manually. We have to do that. Whether you wish to maintain a diary, remember things as it happens, only we have to do that. You have to make a decision whether to avoid all the cognitive distortions if you want to sustain in a relationship. Otherwise, it will become a toxic relationship that we may be maintaining, or we go for a breakup in that relationship. So these are certain strategies and techniques which, if practiced, will help us to develop emotional intelligence. Nandini has asked, could have the seminar is motivating, and okay, you've given your feedback. Thank you, Nandini. Yes, Nandini. I am looking for one more question if Lavanya ma'am permits me. It's 3:03. I think I have to stop.
No, is there any question? Yeah, guys, any question?
If not, ma'am, I would really like to thank you and all the students. Yes, Nirmala?
Ma'am, I have a specific question.
Yes, Nirmala?
Ma'am, there are many youth these days developing psychological problems such as BPD, OCD, etc. Marginally just manageable, so they might prefer medication or they might not. They might think it is tolerable, it is in tolerable amount, so they might sustain it, trying all the self-help that they can. So if it is going like this, they have inhibitions and convictions due to their disorder, so they might be feeling a lot of blockage in the path of developing emotional quotient.
Yes.
So could you suggest any tips for such youth?
Yes, Nirmala, what you raised is something very crucial in the current conditions also. There are two things I need to answer there. Where there is a conditions of clinical depression or OCD or any other emotional distortions or self-harm behavior, etc., where there is a requirement, yes, medication is required through a psychiatrist. But in most conditions, we perceive that it's very severe, but we don't require medical conditions for that, prescriptions. You can consult a counselor, where there are two ways. When it's a deep-rooted problem, we need to go for psychotherapeutic measures. But if not, if it is something which is within the resolvable condition, but the person doesn't know how to approach it, or they've tried many ways and yet they do not know how to approach it, especially the cognitive distortions, there are trained therapists. One such technique will be CBT, cognitive behavior therapy, where we first work out to help them to come out of the cognitive distortions and then bring them in their regular frame of mind to accept their true emotions, and then we rebuild on training them on social skills to develop emotional intelligence. Now that becomes a proper training session with professional help. In such conditions where the emotional problem like condition is very severe, in such mild conditions where it is disturbing to the person but not too much of a hindrance for the person, you can always take peer group support or a mentor, or if required a counselor support, to first work on cognitive blocks, come out of the cognitive blocks, and then that is the time we use the stop thought technique, CBT, REBT, rational emotive therapy. These are all trained techniques that we need to model after the counselor teaches to you. Once you practice that, your mind is much more receptive first to understand yourself, what you require, then understanding others becomes much easier process for us. Have I answered your question, Nirmala? CBT people, medication is not mandatory. Medication becomes mandatory only in condition when there is self-harm behavior shown, or your behavior becomes dangerous to the other person. Only in these two conditions, I would suggest that you take the help of the psychiatrist. Otherwise, try avoiding medication, because most psychiatric medications are generally sedative and fairly addictive in nature. It takes time before withdrawing the medicines. So, but where medications are required, you have to take along with either psychotherapy or counseling for such of those people.
There's a question on the message box, like we measure our IQ, can EI also can be measured?
Yes, we can measure EI also. There are standardized tools. We have Goldman's tool, Baron's tool, Schroed's tool, a lot of psychological standardized tools for different age and gender and situations are available in the the journal sites also. In addition to that, you can also have situational conditions given qualitatively and see how they reply or react in that situation, which will satisfy the criteria of the emotional components. I just presented to you all the 4 major components. Each of the 4 has another subdivisions of another 10 under each of this. So when all these qualities are getting reflected, you can develop your own tool, or you can use the existing standardized emotional intelligence tools. I think Ananya and Soumya wanted to say something, if they still wanted to ask anything.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, Soumya. Thank you all students. Thanks for asking me, because you made me now feel good now, more than my presentation. My whole idea is, if that could just make you reflect and think whenever you want to think about it. I think as a psychologist, I'm able to reach to you all. That's all what I intended in this session here. So you don't need to respond immediately now. You don't need to change or not remain the way you are right now. When you feel that need, use whatever I've told you right now, and then see its effect at that point of time onwards. And thank you, Lavanya ma'am, for that.
Yeah, thank you, ma'am. Thank you so much for such a lovely, informative, need of the hour session, ma'am. It's really informative, and hope our students will interact more in future, ma'am. Thank you.
Sure, ma'am. We will have.
Thank you.
Thank you all students also.
Yeah, thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.